This story is called Leila. I can hardly remember a time when I didn't know Leila. Perhaps I was always in love with her, albeit unconsciously. Leila was one of those angular women whose beauty is unseeable to many men. Those who prefer large breasts, plump buttocks, blonde hair, rounded cheeks. Because Leila was none of those things. Her breasts were small, her buttocks flat, her hair just a shade short of jet black, and her cheekbones were high and prominent. But to me she was beyond conventional prettiness. She had an exotic attraction, even an allure. Our friendship dated back to our university days. We read and critiqued each other's essays. We offered sympathetic ears to each other's love affairs and heartbreaks. Each looked out for the other's safety at parties where intoxicants were available to excess. Yet we never crossed the line between friendship and romance. Perhaps we feared to do so. Maybe it might undermine the amity that bound us together. Our relationship was severed in the period when Leila was involved with Vince. Vince, handsome and outwardly charming, turned out to be controlling and cruel. He persuaded Leila to move in with him, then he managed to cut her off from her other friends, including me. We didn't reconnect until Leila found the courage to break up with Vince. But the 18 months that she spent with him left her a very different woman. She'd become insecure, completely lacking in self-confidence. Leila's misfortune was that Vince's personal inadequacies projected themselves onto her. He continually compared her negatively with other women. She needed breast implants because her breasts were too small. Then she'd be a real woman. Vince's opinions were based on the excessive amount of porn that he watched. Porn had convinced him that large breasts were essential to keep a man interested. All this gave him permission, he said, to be free to ogle any other female. Leila's physique and choice of clothes made her unsexy. She should be aware that he could dump her any time he wanted. In actual fact, Vince was not a satisfactory stud. He couldn't perform at the standard he saw on his laptop screen. Possibly that was because he reached orgasm by masturbating to the images that he saw on the screen. Subjected to this continual barrage of belittlement, Leila was acutely self-conscious about her physical attributes. As she once said to me, I think that what he really wanted was for me to be a porn star. Eventually she found the courage to leave the relationship, but her psyche was badly damaged. She needed a long period of counselling therapy to overcome even some of her feelings of inadequacy. But they were triggered again even by such seemingly trivial as TV advertisements where undergarments and beachwear were displayed by even modestly curvaceous models. As for embarking on a new romantic relationship, Leila's low self-esteem made this out of the question. I saw much more of Leila as her confidant when we reconnected after she broke up with Vince. To try and restore her self-confidence, we did ordinary things. Bowling evenings with friends from university, attending concerts and baseball games together. We'd been friends for a long time, and I felt very protective towards her. However, my sense of protectiveness towards Leila gradually gave way to something much more profound, until the day I realized that I was deeply in love with her. Like the old song by Doris Day, once I had a secret love that lived within the heart of me. All too soon my secret love became impatient to be free. What should I do? As I've already said, we had previously not crossed the line from friendship to romance, lest it undermine our friendship. But eventually I couldn't hold myself back. One evening as we were sitting in a booth at a local pizza joint, after a couple of glasses of red wine, I plucked up my courage. Looking over at Leila, I said, Leila, I need to tell you something. She looked at me a little quizzically and said, "Sure, John, what?" "Well, I really don't know how to say this, but I've fallen in love with you." There, I'd said it. Leila looked at me somewhat incredulously. "How could you?" She didn't say it in an accusatory tone, but rather in one of wonder. "I don't know, it just happened." "But look at me, I'm nothing to look at, bony and flat-chested. How could you see anything to love in me? Why would anyone see anything to love in me?" "Leila, listen to me. I love you, you're beautiful. I've always thought so. I can't imagine a more beautiful woman." "Oh, John, you really are the sweetest man. No, I'm telling you that I love you." This conversation went back and forth from there, but when we parted that evening, it was with an oh so chaste and tender kiss. Leila was so emotionally fragile, so this wasn't a relationship to be rushed to the next level, as they say. I was desperately afraid of scaring her off, but gradually we became physically more comfortable with each other, holding hands in public, letting the kisses become less chaste, cuddling in the movie house, cuddling at home on the sofa, and all the time I assured Leila how beautiful she was, what a lovely figure she had, her dark wavy tresses, how my heart seemed to skip a beat whenever I chanced upon her unexpectedly. And it was all true. First time she gave herself to me was full of tenderness. In the darkness of her bedroom we removed only our lower garments. Afterwards we lay together contentedly. I put my arms around her, cupping her breast through her t-shirt. She flinched visibly. "What's the matter?" I said. "Oh, I don't know. I just feel so embarrassed. They're so small you won't like them." "Well," I said, "I think that by now I've figured out they aren't huge, but that hasn't stopped me from falling in love with you." "I wish they were bigger. Do you think I should get implants?" "Absolutely not. I keep telling you I love you the way you are." It was some weeks later before I first saw Leila naked. I was spellbound. "You are so beautiful," I said. "You have such a lovely slim body." "Really? You're not just saying that?" "No, definitely not. In fact, you have the most beautiful small breasts. May I hold them?" She nodded cautiously. "Yes, look, they're just perfect. I can hold one in each hand. They fit exactly. They must be made for me." It's lucky, I told her another time, that not everyone likes their lovers the same. Some like their breasts like melons. I guess I prefer apples. It really wouldn't do if everyone liked the same thing, you know, or some people would get left out. But I don't think that I ever really convinced her. Either that she was beautiful or that her breasts were large enough. No, just the right size. One day when I arrived at Leila's apartment, she was crying. "Whatever's the matter?" I said. Words tumbled out between sobs. "John, I know that you really love me, and I know that you think that I'm beautiful, even though I'm not. But I just can't commit to you. Not now, maybe not ever. I know that I'll disappoint you eventually. I know you'd like to, to live with me, maybe even to marry me, but I just can't. I guess that I just don't dare do it. I'm so sorry to have to hurt you, but that's how I feel. I guess I feel I'm not good enough for you." Despite all my protestations to the contrary, Leila was immovable. I was devastated. She was the love of my life, yet she was shutting me out of hers. I'd done everything I could to try to rebuild her shattered self-esteem. Clearly my efforts were not adequate. Perhaps it was inevitable. Leila's decision included the demand that I not contact her to try and change her mind. It made it profoundly painful to visit or even to pass by the places where once I'd spent time with her, let alone the street where her apartment was situated. Much later, I had an opportunity to transfer my job from Toronto to Vancouver. It seemed the obvious course of action to relocate. That was now well over a decade ago. but there's been an empty place in my heart ever since. A letter came last week in an oversized envelope, addressed to me at my Vancouver address. Inside was a letter signed by Ronald Flowerdew of the Toronto legal partnership Perkins, Katowski and Flowerdew. Flowerdew's letter read as follows. Dear Mr. Blake, I'm instructed by the executors of the estate of the late Miss Leila Severins to forward this letter to you. Yours sincerely. There was another envelope inside. It was addressed simply to John, in Leila's unmistakable florid scrawl. With a heavy heart I slit the envelope open with shaking hands, and this is what I read. My dearest John, my dearest, really after all this time? I read on. I have debated long and hard with myself as to whether or not to write this letter. As it is, I've left instructions that it should not be delivered to you until after I've gone. You see, my most beloved, I have stage 4 lung cancer. No, I didn't smoke when you knew me, and not afterwards either. And the prognosis is that I have only a few weeks left on this earth. Among my many reasons for writing to you after all this time, I want you to know how much I have regretted my terrible mistake in turning you away. At the time I thought it was for the best, even though I knew how much you loved me and that you were completely sincere when you told me that I was beautiful. But at that time it was impossible for me to commit myself to you in the way you wanted and that I thought you needed. I was still too damaged. It's no small irony as I come to the end of my life and emaciation has set in, I finally admitted to myself I'm not so bad looking after all. Even the breasts you so admired are quite presentable in their understated way. Perhaps even more than that is that I know, don't try and find out how, that you're not currently attached romantically. And apparently have not been seriously so since we parted. Perhaps, and I flatter myself, it's because you have kept alight a flame of love for me all these years. If so, I hope this letter will finally release you from that ensnarement. Maybe it will enable you to find love again. I cannot begin to tell you of my sense of desolation as I reflect on my life. I wasted my chance of love. How sorry I am that I hurt you, my very best and most loyal friend. These last months I've wondered more and more often as to whether life is all there is, and whether there is something to look forward to on the other side. If there is, rest assured that I will be looking down at you and cheering you on. With all the love with which I should have returned yours to me, your dearest Leila. It's true, my romantic life since Leila has been a desert. Sure, there have been girlfriends, but nothing serious. Every time a relationship was in the making, I couldn't go through with it. I was emotionally lying to the girl as she made love to me. Because all the time I imagined making love to Leila. The sex gave me no joy. It was unfair to the girl. So I felt compelled to break off these stunted romances even before they really started. Worse, at other times I simply could not perform with this other person. Will this letter release me from the memory of the woman who so enchanted me? I use the word enchanted advisedly. Truly I was under her spell. It's far too early to say, but how I wish that the past had turned out differently. I know that I would have loved her till death do us part and beyond. If you're really there, look down on me, lovely Leila. Don't forget me, for I cannot forget you.